Sierra's POV. The first report reached me at dawn. Xenox entered my tent, his expression carrying a mix of urgency and barely leashed fear. He rarely showed emotion unless the situation was dire, so the moment his silhouette appeared against the canvas, my stomach tightened. I had been awake for hours already, mapping out potential supply routes and preparing scouts for the next rotation, but the look on his face told me those plans were minutes away from being irrelevant. "Another rogue settlement has fallen," he said quietly. "Not from battle." My heart tightened. How many survivors? None. I set aside the map I had been marking and rose to my feet. The children were still asleep in the adjoining chamber. Outside, the sun was beginning to rise over the mountains, painting the sky in streaks of pale gold. "Show me everything," I said. Xenox handed me a sealed scroll. The wax bore the mark of our southern scouts. I broke it open and scanned the contents. Bodies found collapsed, skin pale, veins blackened. There were no wounds or sense of poison or magic residue. The symptoms spread by proximity alone, leaving wolves dead within hours. Some collapsed mid-step, others in their sleep. "This is not a plague," I murmured. "This is a weapon." Xenox nodded grimly. My thoughts exactly. I stepped outside the tent, needing air. The cold mountain wind hit my face, sharp and grounding. Ithaca's territory was usually vibrant with the presence of its people, but the path here was quiet. I rubbed my temples. "How far has it spread?" 3 settlements in 10 days, Xenox replied. "And the pattern suggests someone is directing it, releasing it." A chill rippled down my spine. Only witches with advanced knowledge could engineer something like this. Xenox looked at me. "And there are very few covens capable of that." "Bethelina," I breathed. I had known she would retaliate after what happened in Moonbane. No one else knows I was Isaac's mate, but I knew she knew and was threatened. Bethelina was not the type to let anything slip from her grasp gracefully, especially Isaak, especially power. But a plague, a magical sickness, this was far beyond petty jealousy or court games. This was genocide. A soft whimper reached my ears. Nyx. She stood in the tent doorway, rubbing her eyes, a stuffed wolf clutched against her chest. Zephyr peeked from behind her legs with mussed hair and a sleepy frown. "Good morning, Mama," Nyx said. I forced a gentle smile. "Morning, my love." Zephyr watched me with eyes still droopy from sleep, his small fingers rubbing the sleep from his cheeks. They sensed tension even when they didn't understand it. Both of them had inherited that sharp, instinctive intuition. Xenox cleared his throat softly. "I will arrange breakfast for them. Thank you." As he guided the twins away, I returned to the scroll, reading it again, slower this time. Each description pointed to something crafted deliberately, not occurring naturally. A sudden flutter of movement stirred the trees beyond the camp, and one of my hidden scouts stepped out of the shadows. She knelt quickly. "Lady Eris," she greeted. "We infiltrated the outskirts of Moonbane as ordered," she said quietly. "We found evidence that confirms your suspicions." "Bethelina?" Her jaw tightened. "Her coven is conducting experiments on captured rogues. They are testing different strains of a magical sickness. The plague spreading through the rogue settlements is only one variation." "How many captives?" "Dozens." "Alive?" "For now." Her voice trembled with restrained fury. I closed my eyes for a moment, centering myself. Rage was a fire that could burn faster than reason if I let it, but fury used properly was a weapon. There is more. The witches call the project the Moonbane Purification. They believe Bethelina will rise as the chosen queen if every rogue outside the major packs is eliminated. My stomach twisted. She wants to wipe out entire communities just to consolidate power. "It seems so," the scout whispered. Moonbane had always been ruthless, but this was madness. A political ambition warped into a nightmare, and Isaak, for all his strength, would not have sanctioned this. Not willingly. "Does he know?" I asked under my breath. Xenox answered for her, appearing after giving the children breakfast. "If he does, then Moonbane is already lost." I stared into the distance at the mountains of Moonbane. Isaak escorted us here as promised, but had returned home since then. Concern etched into my features despite my attempts to hide it. Something was happening there. Something he did not know of. If Bethelina controlled the coven, if she held influence over Isaac's council, and has planted a magical plague under his roof, then Isaak might already be standing in the lion's den without realizing it. A strange mix of fear, anger, and protectiveness twisted through me, the memory of his voice calling after me at the border still haunting me. "Prepare a reconnaissance team," I said, stepping back inside the tent. "I want a full map of every site the plague has touched. Patterns, timing, direction of spread, everything." "Yes, Lady Eris," Xenox responded. As they left, I checked on the twins again. Zephyr was drawing circles in the frost on the window. Nyx braided flowers into her wolf toy's tail. They looked peaceful. But for how long? I sat beside them, brushing a hand over their hair. The whisper of prophecy curled through my mind. The moonborn queen must rise, or all packs will fall. Every path seemed to point in the same direction. Toward confrontation, destiny, tightening like a thread around my throat. Toward a war none of us were prepared for. A knock sounded at the tent entrance. I looked up to see a different scout, this one trembling with a mix of relief and fear. "My queen, we received another message." "From where?" "Moonbane, and from Alpha Isaak." She held out 2 sealed letters. One carried the insignia of Moonbane's official council. The other bore Isaac's personal mark drawn by his own hand, Sierra's Pav. The council chamber of Ithacus had never felt so tense. The walls, shaped from pale stone and engraved with ancient lunar sigils, seemed to hum with the pressure of too many powerful voices. The chandeliers flickered with silver flames fueled by moon energy crystals. Dozens of alphas filled the circular hall, their scents mixing into a dense fog of power and impatience. When I had received the letter from Moonbane requesting to hold council in Ithacus, I nearly refused, the idea of having several powerful wolves on my land unsettling me. Then I read Isaac's letter, and the part of me that still craved him gave in to the request. I stood near the eastern arc, Xenox at my side, while the twins were guarded in the healer's wing under strict protection. This meeting was not safe for children. Even I felt the danger in the air. At the center, the counselor raised his hand. "We begin." The noise died instantly. 3 rogue settlements have fallen to an unknown plague, he announced. Evidence suggests magical interference. We have gathered all alpha leaders to address this threat. Eyes slid toward me. Rumors of the prophecy and the power I had used in Moonbane had spread, stirring curiosity and suspicion in equal measure. I kept my expression smooth. The counselor continued, "We have also received intelligence that Moonbane territory is connected to these events." A ripple moved through the crowd, and then the doors slammed open. Isaak strode inside. The room seemed to shift around him. His presence always carried weight, but today it was a storm. His dark hair gleamed like cold steel. His jaw was tight, and his shoulders were rigid with a fury, but his eyes, when they flicked toward me for the briefest moment, carried something else. Worry. He took his seat among the council, but the tension inside him never eased. The counselor nodded respectfully. "Alpha Isaak, you arrive in time. We were about to begin questioning regarding the involvement of your house." "My house," Isaak said, voice lethal, "did not authorize any magical experiments, nor any plague, nor any attack." Whispers exploded through the chamber. The counselor raised a brow. "Then explain why scouts found witch covens connected to Moonbane, gathering rogue captives as test subjects." Isaac's hands curled into fists. "Because someone in my territory is acting without my knowledge." Someone. We all knew who. Bethelina. I watched him carefully, noting every detail. His breathing was too controlled, and his composure was too forced. Isaak was holding himself together by threads. The counselor's voice sharpened. "Are you claiming treason within your own court?" Isaak pushed to his feet so suddenly several alphas flinched. "I am claiming that Bethelina is conducting forbidden magic in secret, and that she is using Moonbane resources behind my back." The chamber erupted again, this time not in whispers, but in full-voiced arguments. Isaak bristled. "Moonbane is not the enemy, Bethelina is." The room froze, the words hanging in the air. The counselor exhaled slowly. "You realize what you have said. Your Luna is essentially declaring war on the packs." Isaac's voice turned rough. "She is not my Luna." A deeper silence fell. I felt my heartbeat slam against my ribs. He had not spoken of their arrangement openly before. Moonbane had always presented them as bonded, even though I knew the truth. Now the veil had been torn in front of every alpha leader. Isaak continued, "Bethelina holds power through political alliances, not through my heart or my bond. She acts for her own ambition, not for Moonbane." His chest rose and fell with restrained rage. I did not authorize any attack on rogue families. For the first time, I saw fear in the other alphas, not fear of the plague, but fear of what it meant for a kingdom as powerful as Moonbane to fracture from within. The high alpha looked toward me. Alpha Sierra, your scouts discovered the evidence first. You have the floor. I stepped forward. My boots echoed across the stone. The moonlit chamber cast pale light along my skin, and I felt my wolf stir beneath it. We investigated Moonbane's outskirts after following clues from devastated settlements, I said, keeping my tone steady. Bethelina's coven is experimenting with different strains of magical sickness. They are testing them on rogue captives. We found bodies, documents, and spell residue that confirms their goal. The alphas leaned in, their sense spiking with alarm. Which goal? One demanded. I met Isaak's gaze for the first time since the meeting started. His expression shifted. A silent apology for something he had not caused. To eradicate rogue communities across the continent, I said. Maybe more. The shock that followed was immediate and brutal. Then Isaak slammed a fist onto the table. The wood cracked beneath the force of his strength. I will not allow it. His voice thundered through the chamber. Moonbane will not be tainted by her madness. I swear it by my blood and my house. An alpha from the northern ridge scoffed. You cannot even keep her under control. How do you expect us to trust your word? Isaak turned his gaze on him with a cold fury. Say that again. The alpha lifted his chin. Everyone knows you let your so-called Luna whisper in your ear. You allowed her witches to infest your court, and now we all pay the price. Isaak moved. The shift was instant, lethal, and terrifying. His power filled the room like a crashing tide. His wolf hovered under his skin, violent and ready to tear him apart, but before he could reach the man, I rushed to block him, my palms brushing his chest for a fraction of a second. He trembled with rage, teeth clenched, but calmed as his eyes landed on me. Stand down, I said quietly. Isaak obeyed, his chest heaving as he backed away, eyes lingering on mine, then sliding to my lips. I ignored how my body reacted. Every eye turned to me as I lifted my chin. Bethelina acts alone. That is what our spies confirmed. Isaak has not supported any part of her scheme. If he had, the plague would already be at our borders. A murmur ran through the council. Some were surprised, but others were skeptical. The counselor nodded once. We will consider this testimony, but we cannot ignore the danger. Moonbane must be monitored. Monitor me, but do not disturb my people, Isaak said harshly. I will root her out myself. Can you? Someone challenged. Moonbane is divided, the counselor announced. The words crashed over the room. Some alphas cursed under their breath, while others shifted uncomfortably. A fractured kingdom meant instability, and instability meant war. For me, war meant the prophecy was beginning to unfold. The moonborn queen must rise. The thought whispered through my mind. Isaak ran a hand through his hair, shoulders tense, eyes shadowed. He looked tired. More tired than I had ever seen him, and I knew the weight he carried. The betrayal gnawing at him, the fear of what Bethelina had become. The fear of losing control of the kingdom he spent years rebuilding. The counselor raised his staff again. We will reconvene in 3 days. Until then, everyone remains in Ithacus. No alpha returns to their kingdom without escort. As the meeting ended, the chamber erupted in low conversations. I turned to leave, but a strong hand wrapped around my arm. Sierra, Isaak said softly. I froze. The sound of my name on his lips did something to me that I hated and needed all at once. He stepped closer, voice low for my ears alone. Thank you. My chest tightened. For what? I was only defending the truth. His eyes softened. That is more than anyone else would have done. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. We stood in the center of chaos, tethered by something fragile and painful, something that refused to die. Then I pulled my arm free. Fix your kingdom, Isaak, before Bethelina destroys more than just Moonbane. I said, then walked away before he could answer. Sierra's pove. 3 days had passed since the last gathering, yet the tension had not eased. Alphas sat in the circular chamber with stiff shoulders and guarded expressions, each one afraid of what the plague meant for their territories, their packs, and their fragile alliances. I stood near the same eastern arc, my cloak brushing the stone floor, Xenox posted behind me like a silent shadow. His presence grounded me, but even I could feel worry rolling off him in waves. He sensed my unease. I had spent nights debating whether I should speak, whether revealing the truth about the prophecy, not just the powers, the entirety of the prophecy that had been whispered to me, would help or doom us all. The moonborn queen must rise or all packs will fall. The words echoed in my mind again as the counselor rose. We continue our investigation into the plague and the political unrest within Moonbane. Isaak sat across the room, posture rigid. Bethelina was not present, which was no surprise. If she dared step into this chamber, the Alphas would tear her apart before any trial began. I avoided Isaac's eyes even as I felt them on me with piercing intensity. The counselor spoke again. Lady Aris, your scouts have uncovered the greatest amount of information regarding this threat. Do you have anything more to report? Every head turned toward me. My heart thudded in my chest. This was the moment I had debated endlessly. Share the truth and risk being dismissed or mocked, or stay silent and risk letting darkness spread unchecked. I stepped forward. I do. My voice sounded stronger than I felt. The counselor gestured for me to continue. I inhaled slowly, letting the moonlight from the high windows wash over me. The plague and the experiments are not the only threat the packs face. Something older is moving in the shadows. Something that has not walked this world for centuries. Several Alphas exchanged skeptical looks. I pushed forward anyway. There is an ancient force known as the Shadowborn, a faction driven by pure corruption. Their magic is forbidden because it consumes wolves from the inside out. I looked at the High Alpha. The symptoms of this plague match the ancient descriptions. The counselor frowned. Those are myths, stories told to scare pups. Not myths, I said firmly. History. Lost history. A southern Alpha snorted. Rogues and their legends. My jaw tightened, but I did not rise to the bait. Another spoke. Shadowborn magic has not existed for hundreds of years, and even that's a stretch, as no one has ever witnessed it. That is what we believed, I said, matching his tone, until bodies began appearing with the exact symptoms described in the ancient scrolls. Isaak leaned forward slightly. I continued, if someone reopened those forbidden rituals, if Bethelina's coven is drawing on that ancient power, then this plague is only the beginning of something much worse. The counselor asked slowly, how do you know of these things? This was the part I had hoped to avoid, because I was tied to the prophecy, and so were my children. Revealing everything I knew about it, and to a room full of people I wasn't sure I trusted, didn't sit well with me, so I chose my words with care. I wasn't even sure they would believe the whispering prophecy, or that the moon speaks to me, so I chose my words carefully. Ithacus keeps many ancient records, I said. Some of them passed down through rogue enclaves. I have had access to both. A few Alphas scoffed under their breath. One from the northern ridge smirked. So we are trusting the word of a rogue queen over generations of scholars. My wolf stirred with irritation. We do not have the luxury of ignoring the truth simply because we dislike the messenger, I said. Another Alpha raised his hand. Show us proof. A relic, a spell, a document, something more than tavern legends. The moon's voice was not something I could hold up like parchment, and the ancient texts I had collected were too vague and fragile. Before I could figure out how to respond, another voice cut through the chamber. Isaak. What Lady Aris is saying matches several unusual reports from Moonbane's borders. Isaak stood. We have seen wolves affected by something that does not behave like sickness. Healers cannot cure it. Magic does not respond to it. Their wolves fade as if erased. I stared at Isaak. He did not look at me, but he had just offered support in the one moment I expected complete isolation. The counselor stroked his beard. Are you suggesting your territory has witnessed Shadowborn activity as well? Isaac's jaw tightened. I am suggesting we have witnessed something unnatural, and if Lady Aris believes it is connected to ancient darkness, then we cannot dismiss that possibility. Many Alphas bristled at Isaak siding with me. Some whispered, their eyes narrowed at him in suspicion. Then the counselor exhaled. We will create a task force to investigate, but until we have proof, we cannot treat myths as fact. Of course, they heard the words, but they did not believe them. I bowed my head slightly. As you wish. With that, the meeting ended. I moved toward the exit, exhaustion sinking into my bones. Xenox followed silently. He felt my frustration without me needing to say anything. Halfway down the corridor, footsteps echoed quickly from behind. Sierra? I stopped, but did not turn right away. I needed a moment to steady myself. When I faced him, his expression was grim and carved with tension. You knew. His voice was low. You knew something was coming long before the plague. I lifted my chin. I suspected. No, he stepped closer. You knew. His eyes searched mine. Because you have seen signs the rest of us have not. I kept my face composed, though inside I felt the familiar pull that his voice always created. Wetger or not, I know anything. Your counsel did not want to hear it, I said. But I do. His voice softened in a way that made my heartbeat stumble. Tell me what you are not saying in front of them. I hesitated. He watched every flicker of emotion across my face. I looked down the corridor, empty except for us. Finally, I said quietly, the moon speaks to me. Isaak inhaled sharply. Speak to you, how? How else, Isaak? She just tells me things. And what did the moon tell you, Sierra? I swallowed hard. That the Shadowborn are rising again and that the packs are not prepared. And the part about you? He asked softly. I looked away, but Isaak reached out slowly, giving me every chance to step back. His fingers brushed my forearm with hesitant warmth. You do not have to carry it alone. I stepped back gently, breaking his touch. The council did not believe me. You should not either. I do, he said immediately, and that is the problem, because if you are right, then we are facing something greater than witchcraft and political betrayal. His voice dropped, and it seems you are standing in the center of it. I wrapped my cloak tighter around myself. Isaak, I warned them. What they choose to do with that warning is their responsibility. He shook his head. No, this is beyond politics now. This is survival, and I will not let you face this threat alone. I forced myself to step back again. You have your kingdom to save. I have mine. That is not all that binds us, and you know it. I turned away before he could say anything else. Good night, Isaak. Sierra. I kept walking. Sierra, wait. He blocked my path. Let me help you. I faced him fully. You and I are not allies. His eyes glinted. Then what are we? I looked away, my chest tightening. We cannot even work together. Too many people watch us. We will be careful, he said. Secret if needed. We share information. We hunt the source of the corruption. And we stop Bethelina and whoever stands with her before this darkness spreads beyond control. If we do this, I said slowly, there are rules. He nodded, waiting. You do not command me, I said. Agreed. You do not get to control my decisions. Another nod. You do not touch my children with your war, with your politics, with your enemies. His eyes flickered, pain slicing through silver irises, but he nodded again. Agreed. I drew a breath. And if we do this, you understand that when it is over, we go our separate ways. His throat worked. If that is what you want. I extended my hand. Isaak looked at it for a long moment as if touching me might break something sacred. Then he reached out and his hand closed around mine. We start tomorrow. No, I corrected. We start now. Bethelina POV. I sat before the mirror in my private chambers, brushing my hair. Moonbane was changing, shifting in ways I did not approve of. Isaak was slipping out of my influence and into hers, Sierra. The name alone irritated me. She was supposed to be a ghost, forgotten and unwanted, banished by rejection. Yet here she was again, walking back into Isaac's life as if she never left. Alpha Isaak left the capital 2 hours ago, but along the forest path Lady Eris joined him. They traveled together in a disguised carriage. Is that all? I asked. The spy swallowed. From the information we've gathered from following them around, it seems they have formed a secret alliance to what? To stop you. They have decided to take it into their hands since the Alpha's council seems cautious. I placed the brush down and turned. Thank you. You may go. She left quickly, relieved. I stood and crossed the room to the table where a sealed document already waited, a pre-written trigger. I had been preparing contingencies since the moment the summit began. Sierra thought she was clever, hidden behind false names and diplomacy, but I had always been 2 steps ahead. Bethelina met Elder Tarek while he was hunting in the forest, a normal thing he does. He was old and stubborn, with a spine too straight for someone who served rather than ruled. He believed in tradition, in purity. He believed Isaac's mate should be noble. He believed in me. Lady Bethelina, he greeted, what is so urgent you cannot even wait till I'm done hunting? I gave him a warm smile. Elder Marek, sorry for intruding. I needed your guidance. He nodded, pleased. Of course, child. I walked slowly, letting my voice stay controlled. You must have heard the rumors, I said. Isaak travels with Sierra, the rogue queen. His lips thinned. Yes, I assumed he was escorting her for political reasons, nothing more. It's more than that. They have an alliance with each other, I said gently. Shock flickered in his eyes. An alliance for what? Why? He asked firmly. I suppose you've heard of the vile deaths of rouges across regions. I suppose you've heard the perpetrator has roots in Moonbane, and that said person is me. Their alliance is to find enough evidence and stop me. But those are simply rumors to taint your name, he bellowed, and all those found in the act of doing such, regardless of their rank, will be accused of treachery and executed if order demands it. Thank you, Elder Tarek. I smiled small. It is good to know that I still have your support. She paused and looked up at him. I do have your support, yes? Always, he bowed. I believe in your vision to make this pack better for all of us, and I will serve whatever my purpose might be. I smiled. So be it. Then I slit his throat. His eyes widened as he choked, hands lifting to his neck. The blade I used had already been coated with Sierra's signature scent, taken from the fabric one of my spies stole from her guest chambers during the summit. He collapsed, gasping, his blood spreading across the marble floor. Forgive me, I whispered, watching life leave his eyes. When his body stilled, I cleaned the blade and placed a leather scrap near his hand. Burnt edges, claw marks. A perfect match to a rogue seal, a perfect match to Sierra. I returned to my chamber where I sat before the gold-rimmed mirror, brushing my hair. Not a single tremor betrayed the truth that 10 minutes earlier I had slit Elder Tarek's throat. A necessary sacrifice. A soft knock echoed against the chamber doors. Enter, I said, my voice relaxed. One of my attendants, Miri, stepped inside and immediately bowed low enough her forehead nearly touched the floor. My lady, she whispered, you are needed. The council requests your presence. It is urgent. I set the brush down, movements graceful and controlled. Why? I asked. What is the problem? She swallowed. There has been a death. I arched an eyebrow. Whose? Elder Marcellus, High Lady. I allowed the appropriate, measured amount of shock to reach my expression. Dead? I repeated softly. Yes, she said with a tremble. His body was found 20 minutes ago. His throat was cut. I stood slowly and tied the black silk robe around my waist. Go, I instructed. Let them know I will be there. Miri bowed again and hurried out. When the doors shut behind her, the smile returned. Everything was unfolding perfectly. The council chamber was loud when I entered. Panic pulsed through the room. The moment I stepped forward, silence rippled outward. One voice at a time died until all eyes were on me. I walked to the high seat and took it without hesitation. Tell me what has been confirmed, I said. Elder Sinric rose first. His face looked sweaty and unsettled. He was found in the east chamber. There were no signs of struggle. Whoever killed him moved quickly and efficiently. And the evidence? I asked calmly. There was a scent. Scent? I repeated. Explain. It was faint, he said. Masked. Someone attempted to suppress it, but traces remain. I leaned forward just slightly. Whose scent was it? His gaze shifted downward. His Lady Eris, he said. Gasps broke through the room. I lowered my eyes, letting the silence stretch. Are you certain? As certain as analysis allows, Sinric replied. It is not fresh, but present. Strong enough to prove she was there. A broken seal with the Ithacus emblem was also found at the scene. Someone growled. That rogue should have never stepped foot in Moonbane. I whispered, barely loud enough to hear. We should not jump to conclusions. But the room already had, their anger igniting the council, voices rising over one another. I lowered my gaze, masking my smile. The captain lifted his fist. We issue a warrant immediately. Lady Eris of Ithacus is now wanted for the murder of Elder Tarek. Anyone caught assisting her will be punished. I put a trembling hand over my heart. Isaak will be devastated. The captain frowned. We should summon him. No, I whispered quickly. Not yet. If she is manipulating him, telling him could warn her. We must act swiftly. The council members nodded in agreement. One of the elders spoke. Lady Bethelina, you were closest to Isaak. What should we do? We must secure Moonbane, I said softly. We must protect our people, and we must prepare Isaak for the truth. Another voice asked, Do you believe Lady Heiress acted alone? I let fear flicker across my face. No, I whispered. I believe she has help. Who? I looked up slowly, letting the moment weigh heavy. Witches. Dark ones, I said. I mean, we all saw the power she used during the rogue attack. For all we know, she could be lying about getting it from the moon. She must be stopped. The council erupted. The captain slammed his hand onto the table. Send riders. Seal the borders. Capture her alive if possible, but if she resists, he shook his head, kill her. The meeting ended, and I returned to my chambers. I poured myself wine and stood by the balcony overlooking Moonbane. Torches glowed across the rooftops, and the storm clouds swallowed the moon. Somewhere far beyond the horizon, Isaak traveled with Sierra. He thought he was protecting her. He thought he could choose her over me. He thought he could work with her against me. I lifted my glass in a silent toast. Let us see how long your alliance survives when the world calls her murderer, I said with a devious smile. Sierra Pav. I blinked awake slowly, my body still sore and sensitive. Isaak was already up. He sat near the small wooden table sharpening a blade. His back was straight. He looked calm and focused, but his jaw was locked tight like he was fighting thoughts. When he noticed I was awake, his eyes softened. Morning. Morning, I muttered. Silence settled between us, fragments of last night flashing through my mind. His hands, my breath, my body, desperate and burning. Heat crept up my neck instantly. I looked away, pretending to stretch like it was the morning after a normal night. Isaak watched me with that unreadable expression he used when he was thinking too much. You feeling better? He finally asked. Much. I pulled the blanket closer. The worst part of my heat passed. He nodded once. Good. That was it. No teasing, no comments about how I clawed at him, no joke about my heat or the way I trembled. He was giving me space. It was strange and unfairly kind. It annoyed me more than it should. He finished sharpening the blade and stepped outside to saddle the horses. I changed into travel clothes and tried not to think about last night. We left the cabin an hour later with barely more than a few exchanged sentences. The forest smelled clean after the storm. Birds had returned. Everything felt normal compared to the chaos inside me. At the clearing, we stopped. His carriage waited on one side of the path. Mine waited on the other. It felt symbolic in the worst way. Isaak stopped and looked at me fully for the first time that morning. We meet again in 4 days, he said quietly, for the investigation. Yes. He hesitated, his gaze lingering a second too long on my lips, then he looked away. I mounted my horse, and so did he. Our eyes met one last time before we turned and rode in opposite directions. The closer I got to Ithaca's borders, the more I felt the weight of reality settle back onto my shoulders. The heat haze faded and clarity crept in with a cold edge. I needed to focus. Duties as the leader. The threat spreading across rogue lands, Bethelina's involvement, the prophecy, Isaak, everything was getting tangled. When the gates of Ithaca's territory finally came into view, I exhaled and sat straighter. Except, something was wrong. Warriors stood in formation. Too many of them with their weapons drawn. My pulse quickened. What is happening? I whispered. My guards exchanged uneasy glances. Then the attack hit. Arrows sliced through the air, the horses rearing. Wolves lunged from both sides of the trees. It's an ambush, someone shouted, just as chaos exploded. Protect Lady Heiress. I shifted, claws out, ready to fight. But before I leaped, something slammed into my side, causing pain to burst through my ribs. My wolf howled in rage. Suddenly, a silver-threaded net came around me. It burned instantly, searing through fur and skin. I screamed, shifting back into my human form unwillingly. Hands grabbed me, shackles clamped around my wrists. The burns sizzled. Get off her! Xenox yelled, slamming into one of them. But there were too many and they pinned him down. I snarled, kicking and twisting, but the silver weakened me fast. The leader stepped forward, Moonbane crest on his armor. Luna Heiress of Ithacus, he announced like a decree. You are under arrest for the murder of Elder Tarek of Moonbane. What? I asked, confused. He tightened the chains, a hiss escaping me. You are charged with high treason, premeditated murder, and assault against Moonbane leadership. That is a lie, I yelled. I was nowhere near Moonbane. We have evidence of your involvement. No, someone framed me. I did not touch him. The commander's face did not change. Save your defense for the council. Pain shot through me as they dragged me forward. My guards tried to fight, but they were overwhelmed. I wanted to shift, but the silver drained everything. I was boarded onto their carriage and transported towards Moonbane territory like a criminal. It was a long and humiliating journey, and by the time Moonbane gates opened, a crowd had formed. "Murderer," someone yelled from the crowd, but I held my head high even though my body trembled with fear. Then I saw him. Isaak stood at the entrance steps, rain dripping from his hair and coat. His expression was furious. His eyes locked onto mine. He strode forward fast, almost running. "What happened?" His voice cut through the noise. "Alpha," the commander said, bowing. "Lady Eris has been arrested by order of the Moonbane Council." Isaac's eyes narrowed. "On what grounds?" "Murder," the guard replied. "Elder Tarek was found dead. All signs point to her." Isaak laughed, like actually laughed. A humorless, violent sound. "That is impossible." "We have evidence," the commander insisted. "She has been with—" My voice cut him off. "I appreciate your need to help me, Alpha," Sierra said, "but there is no need for that." He turned to me sharply. I shook my head once. If he said it, if he admitted I was with him, then everything we were doing would crumble. The alliance would be exposed. Bethelina would win and our children would be targets. My voice was hoarse but steady. "I do not need your help." Isaak stared at me like the words physically hurt him. "See, Lady Eris," I corrected bitterly. "I do not need your help." His jaw flexed. Anger burned in his eyes, but under it something like fear. Not for himself, but for me. The guards began pulling me past him. The chains dragged against the stone, scraping loudly. Isaak stepped forward instinctively, but the commander blocked him. "Alpha, she must be escorted to the holding chambers. The council will convene immediately." Isaac's voice dropped to a dark growl. "If one bruise appears on her that did not exist before this moment, I will rip the throat out of every man who touched her." Even chained and weakened, my chest tightened at those words. The guards hesitated, fear flickering in their eyes. Isaak didn't move. He just stood there, drenched in rain, eyes locked on me until I disappeared through the shadows of the hall. Sierra's footsteps echoed down the corridor sometime near dawn, but they didn't belong to Isaak. Isaac's steps always held weight and authority. These steps were lighter, quieter, and more cautious. I sat up straighter. A shadow appeared first, then a familiar face. Callan. He wasn't supposed to be here. No one was allowed access to me without council approval. His expression softened when he saw me awake. "Good," he whispered. "You're still conscious." "That's a strange greeting." He shook his head. "Not in your situation." My pulse picked up. "What are you doing here?" He looked toward the corridor before stepping closer to the bars. "Isaak sent me." My heart stopped. "What?" I whispered. Callan pulled a key from inside his cloak. "He won't let you stay in here." I stood slowly, the cuffs rattling. I told him not to interfere. "And he listened," Callan said, "up until the part where keeping you here would break him." My throat tightened. "This will destroy him politically. The council will think he's protecting me because I am guilty." Callan inserted the key into the lock. "The council already believes what Bethelina feeds them. Staying here only serves her." The lock clicked, the sound echoing across the dungeon. Callan pulled the metal door open and stepped back. "Move. We don't have long." I hesitated on the threshold. Leaving meant Isaac's hands would be stained with rebellion, with defiance and betrayal in his own territory. "Callan," I whispered. "If I walk out, Isaak takes the fall." Callan's eyes hardened. He already decided his will. My breath shook. Then I never should have let him care. Callan gave a short exhale, almost a laugh. "Trust me, that ship sailed long before you tried stopping it." I stepped through the doorway. Callan grabbed my arm gently and guided me forward. The corridor was empty, torches burning low along the damp walls. "Where are we going?" I asked. "There's a tunnel under the west wall. Isaak had it unsealed this morning. Does anyone know?" "Only those who would die for him," Callan said. We reached a stairwell. He helped me climb, one hand on my elbow. "Once we reach the surface, there will be horses waiting. You will ride into the forest and disappear." "And Isaak?" My voice trembled. "He will be fine. For now, I'm sure he'd like you worry about yourself." I hated how relieved part of me felt. I hated how much trust was already burned into my bones for him. At the top of the stairs, Callan paused and leaned against the iron door, listening. After a moment, he nodded. Clear. He pushed the door open. Cold air hit my face. I took a breath as if I hadn't breathed in days. Moonlight spilled across the training yard. 2 horses stood tied near the shadows of the wall, saddled and ready. Come, Kellen murmured. We moved fast, staying close to the stone walls. My wrists throbbed with every movement. The cuffs were still silver, still locked. Can we take these off? I asked quietly. Kalen shook his head. Not yet. The council must believe you escaped in restraints. Isaak insisted. It buys time. I understood, even if every instinct hated it. We reached the horses. Kalen untied the first one and helped me mount. My body was still weak from the heat, from confinement, from everything. He secured my foot in the stirrup and checked the straps. Then everything changed. A faint whistle cut through the air. Kalen froze. I didn't understand what happened until I saw the arrow buried deep in his side. Kalen! He staggered but stayed upright, gripping my saddle to steady himself. Voices erupted in the dark. Torches flared, shadows swarming from behind the outer walls. Bethelina's colors. My blood went cold. Move. Kalen hissed through clenched teeth. Ride, Sierra? Now? No. What about you? Kalen pushed me back against the saddle with one hand. I will survive. Now leave. That's an order on authority of the Alpha. Another arrow flew. He shoved himself in front of me, taking the second hit in his shoulder. I screamed his name. Kalen gritted his teeth, eyes blazing with fury and pain. This was planned, I whispered. They knew. Of course they knew, a voice called from the shadows. A woman stepped forward. I recognized her immediately. Bethelina's personal messenger. Her eyes gleamed with triumph. The Alpha may be blind, she said, but Bethelina is not. She knew Isaak would try to free you. Kalen reached for his blade, but his strength faltered. More guards poured in, surrounding us. I leaned down from my saddle, grabbing Kalen's arm. We can still run, I whispered. He gave a weak laugh. With 2 arrows in me? I don't think so. Another guard stepped forward, smirking. You were foolish to think you could hide the disgrace. Kalen growled. Even wounded, he radiated danger. You want her alive, he said. That means I still have use. The messenger tilted her head. Alive, yes. Intact? Not necessary. She lifted her hand. Take them. Everything blurred. Kalen shoved my horse hard. Now, Sierra! Before I could protest, the horse jolted forward. My grip tightened desperately around the reins. Sierra! Kalen shouted after me. Run! Arrows flew. Steel clashed. Kalen's roar echoed behind me, raw and violent. I looked back once. He fought like fury itself, blood staining his side and shoulder. 3 guards surrounded him, another moving in. He was outnumbered, but still he fought. Then one slipped behind him and slammed a blade into his ribs. Kalen fell. My heart broke. No! The last thing I heard was Kalen's broken breath and Bethelina's messenger shouting, Bring her back alive. The council wants the execution public. My chest tightened. Isaak had risked everything to save me, and now I might be going back in chains. My horse thundered across the open yard and toward the far gate. Behind me, the chaos grew louder. Do not let her reach the tree line, a guard shouted. Arrows hissed past my shoulders. One skimmed my arm and I hissed as blood flowed. I leaned forward. Come on, I whispered to the horse. Please, just a little farther. A horn blared behind me. Moonbane's alarm. They knew I was gone. Branches whipped against my skin as we reached the forest. The horse stumbled over roots and rocks, but didn't slow. My wrist shook against the silver cuffs until my skin blistered, my breathing sharp and broken. The horse skidded, kicking up leaves and dirt as figures stepped out from the trees. Moonbane warriors, 5 of them, 3 in their wolf forms, the others in their human forms. One stepped forward, lifting a torch. Well, he said, voice smug, the rumors were true. The rogue queen still has teeth. Let me pass, I growled. He laughed like I'd told a joke. You think after killing an elder we would let you run back into the wild and rally an army? I didn't kill him. I'd save it for the execution, another snapped. I'm warning you, I said quietly. I am not defenseless. The leader tilted his head. Chained, weak, wounded, he smirked. You are very defenseless. I smiled, humorless. You mistake restraint for incapability. He moved closer. And you mistake your past title for relevance. You're nothing now. My patience snapped. Then come find out. He lunged first. I kicked my foot free of the stirrup and caught his jaw with my heel. The crack echoed, and he stumbled back with a curse. 2 wolves rushed me next. I swung my cuffed hands outward, and the silver chain cracked against one wolf's jaw. Blood sprayed. The other bit my arm. I slammed my elbow into his side. Pain shot through my hands, but he fell. I scrambled for my horse, but the 3rd wolf tackled me off the horse. My back hit the ground hard. Air rushed from my lungs. He pinned me, rage twisting his face as he growled. Suddenly, another wolf came barreling towards us. It tackled the other wolf off me, and they ripped at each other with claws and teeth until the guard wolf was left unconscious and bleeding on the ground. I pushed myself up, breathing hard. The wolf shifted, and the moon finally lit his face. "Fjord," I whispered. "Isaak's cousin." He offered his hand. "Glad you remember me. Would have been embarrassing otherwise." I slapped his hand away and stood on my own. "What are you doing here?" I demanded. "Saving your life. You're welcome." "I didn't ask for help." "No," he said, tone shifting, "but Isaak did." My heart stopped. "What?" "Isaak sent 2 plans. Callan was the quiet option." His gaze flicked to the blood on my arm. "Apparently that went poorly. He's wounded," I said, voice cracking. "Badly." Fjord's jaw tightened. "I know. I should go back," I whispered. "Callan?" "No," Fjord's voice sharpened. "Going back helps no one. He'll die because of me. He'll die if you give Bethelina what she wants." "Sapa, Isaak didn't gamble everything just for you to walk back into a cell." I clenched my jaw. Fjord stepped closer and unlocked the cuff around my hand. "Ready?" "No," I said honestly. "But go anyway," he finished. We moved toward the deeper forest, running where the moonlight couldn't reach. "Where are we going?" I asked. "To Ithacus. I can't go back there. They'll follow me and hurt my people." Fjord looked at me with something like respect. "Don't fret," he said. "There's a plan in place." I swallowed hard. "And Isaak?" Fjord's expression softened. "Isaak chose his side the moment he chose you." Sierra's Pove. The forest grew darker and colder the farther we rode. My breath came in sharp bursts, my lungs burning from fear and exhaustion. Fjord stayed ahead of me, silent and alert, his movements smooth despite the tension humming through him. At some point, the sound of pursuit disappeared behind us. Still, I could not shake the feeling of being watched. Branches snapped under our paws. The moon shifted behind clouds. Every step felt like walking deeper into exile. "Fjord," I finally whispered. My voice scraped like gravel. "How much farther?" "Close," he murmured. "Close to what?" I asked, voice tight. He did not answer. A few more minutes passed before Fjord slowed. He stepped through a thick line of undergrowth. I followed, pushing branches aside. The trees opened into a clearing. Fjord shifted first, and I followed. There, waiting beside a battered carriage and 2 horses, stood Xenox. Relief and unease hit me at the same time. "Xenox?" I breathed. He turned, relief flashing across his face before he rushed toward me. "Lady Eris, you made it." No one followed. Fjord interrupted. "We shook all of them off a while back." "I know." Xenox lifted his chin slightly. "I have patrols in the tree line." Of course he did. "You knew I was coming?" Xenox nodded. "I came as soon as Isaac's message reached me," he said. "The carriage is stocked. Blankets, medicine, food, gold, everything you might need." I swallowed. Isaak had thought of everything, even when I tried to stop him. Xenox gestured toward the carriage. "And your children are inside." My chest tightened painfully. I walked toward the carriage, my steps uncertain. When I opened the door, 2 small faces lifted from a nest of blankets. Nyx blinked sleepily before her eyes widened. "Mom?" My throat closed. "Yes," I whispered. She scrambled forward and threw her arms around my neck. I held her tight, breathing her in. Zephyr crawled closer, clutching his stuffed wolf. His voice was small. "Are you no, Mama?" I shook my head and kissed his forehead. "Yes, I am fine." It was a lie neither of them called out. I tucked them close for another moment before helping them settle again. When I stepped back outside, Xenox stood waiting. "What now?" I asked. "You ride north," he said. "There are old safe houses near the border. Old allies, reserves of supplies. Isaak made sure everything was prepared." My chest ached again. He knew I would refuse help. "Yes," Xenox said quietly, and he helped anyway. Finally, I met Xenox's eyes. "Ithacus needs leadership while I'm gone. I assign you temporary authority over Ithacus. Protect the pack, keep the people safe, and do not let the council use fear to turn them." "You trust me with that responsibility? I wouldn't give it if I didn't." Xenox straightened his spine, his posture shifting into the stance of a soldier kneeling before a crown. He placed his fist over his heart. I pledge my loyalty to you, Sierra, and until you return, I will protect Ithacus with my life. I stared at him. My return is not guaranteed. He shook his head. It is, because you are the only person stubborn enough to survive this. A weak breath escaped me. Not quite a laugh, but close. I stepped closer and gripped his shoulder. Protect them. All of them. With everything I am, he promised. Fjord cleared his throat. This is as far as I go, he said quietly. My head snapped toward him. What? My orders were to get you here to Xenox for transport, and your children, and then you travel north from this point. My chest squeezed. So you're leaving? Yes, his tone softened just a fraction. If I travel farther, I risk leading them to you. This route remains safe if I disappear. But you cannot return to Moonbane. They will kill you. Fjord shrugged. I did not come here to live forever, just long enough to do what Isaak asked. I nodded, even though it hurt. Fjord, I whispered. Thank you. He gave a small nod. Keep moving. Do not stop unless you must. And do not trust anyone except Isaak when he reaches you. I blinked. Isaak is coming? Fjord smirked. You really thought he would let you disappear alone? I could not breathe for a moment. Good luck, he said, stepping back into the shadows. Both of you. Then he shifted, stepping back into the shadows, and just like that, he vanished into the forest. Xenox took the reins and brought the horses closer to the carriage. He gestured to the carriage door. Come. You should leave before the sun rises. The sooner the better, he said. I nodded. Before climbing inside, I placed my hand on his. You are not just a beta, I said. You are family. Emotion flickered across his expression before he bowed his head. I shut the door and climbed onto the driver's seat. The twins in a padded basket lined with fur. The carriage was stocked exactly as Isaak would have done it. Warm blankets, food, clothes for the twins, medical supplies, maps. Everything I could need. I flicked the reins and the horses lurched forward. Xenox stepped back, watching us disappear into the dark. At dawn, I finally stopped long enough to feed the twins and rest the horses. Then I pushed forward again until we came to an old hunter's outhouse. Exactly where I was told it would be. I climbed down and carried the sleeping twins inside before returning for supplies. Once the carriage was stabled and the door secured from the inside, I finally rested. It only took a few days, and the outhouse had become a temporary home. I stored food, laid out beds for the children, checked windows and door frames. Every morning I woke before sunrise and stood outside with the cold biting into my skin just to be sure we were alone, and every morning we were. A plan began to form in the back of my mind. I needed to return to Ithacus. Bethelina had already taken too much, my freedom, my safety, Callan's blood, and Isaak had risked everything for me. I paced the small room, mind racing. I was tired, angry. Awake in a way I hadn't been in years, and just as that thought settled in my bones, a sound cut through the silence. 3 knocks. No one should know anyone is here. Slowly, I moved toward the small table and reached for the hidden dagger tucked beneath the folded blankets. Another knock. My pulse thundered in my ears. I sent the twins a quiet signal to stay still. Their eyes widened, but they obeyed. Bare feet silent on the wooden floor, I approached the door. I pressed my shoulder against the wall beside the frame and listened. I heard nothing, no breathing, no footsteps. Whoever stood outside knew how to hide their presence. I tightened my grip on the dagger and slowly I slid the latch free. I positioned myself so I could strike first if needed. Then I pulled the door open in one swift movement. Blade raised. And froze. Sierra's pas vive. As I rode across the border into Ithacus, I had expected guards or scouts, or maybe even resistance, but instead, the land felt strangely quiet. Isaak rode beside me, his wolf restless beneath his skin. He kept looking around as if waiting for trouble. I could feel the tension rolling off him. We crested a hill overlooking the heart of Ithacus territory. The village lights shimmered against the cold landscape. Smoke curled up from chimneys. People moved about, unaware that war was about to touch their lives. I swallowed and urged my horse forward. As soon as we crossed the main path, voices rose. Lady Eris has returned. The sound swelled fast, louder and louder, spreading through the village like wildfire. Doors opened, feet rushing to gather as we rode past. By the time we reached the hall, what felt like the entire pack stood waiting, and at the front was Xenox. He ran toward us, breath fogging in the cold. "Lady Eris," he gasped, relief and emotion twisting through his voice. "You made it. You are safe. Thank the stars. I already sent word for the cooks. A feast will be ready within the hour. The people want to celebrate. We have decorations prepared. The council wants to honor your return. Everyone has been waiting for this moment." I stared at him for 2 seconds before shaking my head. "No." Xenox blinked. "No? Call it off," I said firmly. "All of it." The crowd went still. I stepped forward and raised my voice so everyone could hear. "My child has been taken." Shocked gasps rippled through the air. "Moonbane's traitors are hunting us. Bethelina has assassins moving across these lands. Celebration can wait. Right now I need every able fighter and every able pact to prepare for war. For war. "Say the word," Xenox said. "Ithacus stands with you." We gathered inside the old war room, a map stretched across the wooden table. Isaak placed markers representing known rogue packs around the northern territories. "These are the first groups that will answer you," Isaak said. "Most hate Moonbane. Many already suspect Bethelina and the council are corrupt." "They will not trust easily," Xenox warned. "They will trust me," I replied quietly, "because I am one of them." Isaak met my eyes. "What is your plan?" I inhaled slowly. "We go to each pack and meet them face to face. No messengers or letters. I stand in front of them and tell them the truth." The first rogue camp lay in the Frostwood Valley. Smoke rose from their scattered shelters, and wolves paced between the trees. As soon as Isaak and I approached, the wolves growled, hackles rising. A massive man with scars across his muzzle stepped forward. "State your purpose," he growled. I dismounted and walked until I stood right in front of him. "I am Lady Eris of Ithacus. I am here for your strength." "We owe you nothing. You owe Bethelina nothing either," I said. "Yet she is the one sending hunters across your land. She is the one kidnapping children. She is the one corrupting the north." The man's eyes flickered. "You have heard the rumors," he muttered. "They are not rumors," I said. "My daughter was taken. I will not leave another family to suffer the same fate." I sighed, stepping forward. "You want protection for your pack," I said. "You want safety for your children. You want freedom from Moonbane's rule. I can give you these things, but I need you to stand with me." The Alpha studied me for a long moment. Something in his gaze softened. Finally, he lowered his head. "Then I pledge my pack to you," he said. "We follow you, Lady Eris." A cheer rose from behind him. Isaak whispered near my ear, "One down, more to go." I exhaled shakily. "Then let us keep going." The days blurred together. Pack after pack, camp after camp, we recruited more help for the battle. Some alphas wanted to test my strength. I beat them to the ground until they submitted. Some wanted to test my resolve and gave them cold truth until they gave in, and some simply wanted a leader who actually cared about the fate of their people. By the end of the 7th day, more than 3,000 wolves had sworn themselves to our cause. Some pledged out of loyalty, some pledged out of fear, some pledged because they wanted revenge, but all that mattered was they pledged. Isaak walked at my side, fought beside me, protected me without trying to cage me. His loyalty had already saved my life once, but it was more than that now. I trusted him fully and completely, maybe for the first time ever, and each night, when we stopped to rest, he looked at me with quiet pride. "Your army is forming," Isaak said one night, looking over the scores of wolves gathered around campfires. "Soon the north will kneel to you." I gazed at the fires flickering across the ice. "I'm not looking for them to kneel," I whispered. "I want them to rise." Isaak smiled faintly. "And that they will." On the 10th day, we returned to Ithacus to regroup. Our forces surrounded the territory like a living shield. Wolves trained in the fields, families sheltered in the halls. Elders shared resources with rogues who had once been enemies. Xenox rushed toward us as we entered the village. "More packs arrived this morning," he said breathlessly. "They asked when you would speak to them." "Let them rest for now," I replied. "I will address them at dusk." Xenox nodded and ran ahead to spread the word. Isaak walked at my side, voice low. "You know, they already look at you like their queen." "I am no queen," I muttered. "You are," he said. at least to me. By dusk, hundreds stood gathered in the courtyard. Fire torches flickered beneath the night sky, where wolves of every rank and every past were waiting. I stepped forward and lifted my voice. "We are reclaiming the North," I said. "We are taking back what Moonbane stole from us, and we are finding everyone they have taken." The courtyard buzzed with the energy of newly united packs, but my thoughts were already ahead of them. North, Moonbane, war. "We leave at dawn," I announced. Every head turned toward me. Isaak stepped to my side. "We march on Moonbane." Rogues and warriors alike straightened their backs. Xenox nodded once, fierce pride in his eyes. Our forces gathered outside Ithacus, a sea of wolves stretching across the cold field. I stepped forward and raised my voice. "This ends at Moonbane. We take back what they stole. We save who can still be saved, and we stop the darkness before it grows." A thunderous howl rose behind me. Isaak shifted and brushed against my side, his wolf solid and warm. His silver eyes met mine. "Let's end this," he said, and with that, we charged. Moonbane appeared on the horizon by nightfall. The once proud territory now reeked of corruption. Torches lined the walls. Shadows moved like insects across the battlements. They had been waiting for us. Our wolves surged forward, warriors clashing, jaws tearing flesh. The ground shook under the weight of bodies. Isaak and I fought side by side. His claws split through attackers. My wolf snapped down on throats. Blood soaked the earth. I saw Bethelina's soldiers fall. I saw rogues defending each other like brothers. I saw Moonbane warriors breaking ranks in fear. But as the sound echoed across the land, something tugged at the back of my senses. A strange ripple in the air, a hush that seemed to fall too quickly. Isaak noticed my tension. "What is it?" "I feel something," I whispered. And the crowd parted slowly. A figure stepped forward. Alpha Rowan. He held a small bundle in his arms, and when he lifted his head, his smile was sharp. "Hello, Sierra." The bundle moved and Zephyr's head peeked out, but his eyes were no longer purple. They glowed a bright, unnatural red. Rowan chuckled softly. "The dark god has blessed him," he said. "Your prophecy has begun." Sierra's pav. "Zephyr," I whispered. His head tilted at the sound of my voice, and for a moment hope surged in my chest. Then he smiled, but it was not my Zephyr's smile. I snarled and took a step forward, claws itching to tear Rowan apart. Isaak shifted beside me, a low, dangerous growl vibrating through his chest. "Give him back." Rowan's eyes flicked to Isaak with mocking interest. "Alpha Isaak, still chasing what you rejected, I see." I said. Isaak growled, "Give him back." Around us, the fighting slowed as wolves turned to watch, warriors of all regions bristling at what was happening. Rowan raised his voice. "Witness the blessing of the dark god. The moonborn child has been chosen." I shifted mid-stride and lunged at Rowan. He reacted instantly, leaping back as two massive wolves slammed into my side, tackling me out of the air. We rolled across the blood-soaked ground. Pain exploded through my ribs, but rage drowned it out. Isaak tore into them without thought. One went down with his jaws around his throat. The second howled as he ripped his shoulder open. "Go!" Isaak roared behind me. "Get the boy!" He tore through Bethelina's guards like a storm clearing a path straight toward Rowan. Rowan backed away, clutching Zephyr tighter. "Father," Zephyr said suddenly. The word froze Isaak mid-step, and Rowan used the moment. He turned and ran, vanishing into the chaos of the inner keep. "No," I screamed. I tried to follow, but more wolves swarmed me. Isaak slammed into them from the side, his roar splitting the night. I surged forward with renewed fury, fighting my way through the bodies, through blood and fire and screams. "Split!" Isaak shouted to our forces. "Half with me, half hold the field." Xenox appeared through the smoke, blood streaking his face. "We have the outer walls." "Hold them," I ordered. "No one leaves." Then Isaak and I ran into Moonbane together. The inner halls swallowed the noise of the battlefield. Torches burned low, causing shadows to flicker across the stone walls etched with old symbols, desperate screams echoing from deeper within. "The prisoners," I called. Isaak nodded. "We cleared the dungeons." We moved fast, striking down guards before they could raise alarms. Bursting doors burst open and shattering chains. "Please," a voice cried from behind iron bars. I tore the door open. A family stumbled out, shaking. "Go," I said. "Follow the noise. You will be safe." Isaak ripped open another cell. "Move!" We freed dozens. Wolves. Adults and children alike, fear hollowing their eyes. Still, no Zephyr. My chest tightened with every empty corridor, every cell that did not hold him. We ran deeper underground until we reached a chamber carved into black stone. Symbols glowed faintly along the walls. Rowan stood at the center. Bethelina was there too. She looked wild. Her hair was loose and her eyes shone with madness. "You are too late," she said softly. "The ritual is complete." Zephyr stood beside her now, unbound and looking so small. "Why do this?" Isaak growled. Her gaze shifted to him. "You still don't understand," she asked calmly. Isaak stepped forward, fury rolling off him in waves. "You betrayed Moonbane. You slaughtered people. And for what?" "For purpose," Bethelina replied. She turned her eyes to me then. "I always knew," she continued. "Lady Eris was Sierra, the missing Omega who vanished with Moonbane's future in her belly. Did you really think I did not recognize you?" My claws dug into the stone floor. "You knew," Isaak said slowly. "You knew the children were mine." Bethelina smiled. "Of course I did. That is why I kept them close, even though I wanted to rip their heads apart and parade it around the pack." Her eyes flicked to Zephyr. "The Dark God required the moonborn children near the heart of power, at least for some time, close enough to shape, close enough to awaken." "You used my son," I snarled. "I prepared him," she corrected, "just as I was prepared." Isaac's voice dropped dangerously low. "You are nothing but a fanatic." She laughed softly. "I am a messenger, a vessel. Unlike you, Alpha Isaak, I did not run from my destiny." Then she looked back at me, her smile turning vicious. "And you," she said, "that you will always be what you were, an Omega pretending at power. No crown, no army, no mate will ever change that." Something snapped in Isaak. He roared and attacked, but Rowan intercepted him, the two colliding in a brutal clash into a stone pillar. I rushed for Zephyr, but Bethelina raised her hands. Magic exploded outward and I flew back, slamming into the wall. Pain screamed through my body. "Sierra!" Isaak shouted. Bethelina staggered, blood trickling from her nose. "You cannot stop what has been awakened." The ground trembled, shadows peeling themselves from the walls. Something massive shifted behind her, its presence crushing the air from my lungs. The dark spirit began to take shape, rising from Bethelina's body like smoke given form. Her scream tore through the chamber as the thing clawed its way out of her. Rowan stared in horror, staggering backward as Bethelina turned on him, her attention finally shifting. Dark tendrils shooting from her hands and crawling towards Rowan. What are you doing? This was not the deal." Bethelina laughed, even as she bled. "There was never a deal. You promised power," he said hoarsely. Bethelina tilted her head. "I lied." Fear crept across Rowan's face. "Bethelina, wait." She lifted one hand, the tendrils wrapping around his throat and limbs. Rowan screamed as they tightened, lifting him off the ground. "Traitors are tools," she said coldly, "rules that can be used against, just as you were used against them." The shadows crushed inward, and there was a sickening crack. Rowan's scream cut off abruptly as his body twisted unnaturally, bones snapping, blood spraying across the black stone. The tendrils released him, and what remained hit the floor in a broken heap. I gagged, bile burning my throat. "You monster," Isaak growled as he slammed into her from the left. The spirit shrieked, the chamber shaking violently beneath the piercing noise. Spike-like objects materialized from it, flying around. Isaak quickly rushed, pushing me to the ground. The spikes tore through the air where my head had been seconds earlier, embedding themselves deep into the stone wall with violent force. Isaak took the brunt of it. Scrambling back to my feet, I raised my hands, my moonborn power answering my call, like moonlight surging through my veins. Silver light exploded outward. "Finish it," Isaak growled. I focused everything, my grief, my rage, my love, manifesting it into the power of the moon. The spirit shattered with a deafening cry, dissolving into smoke that burned away into nothing. Bethelina collapsed to the floor, coughing blood until her writhing form stilled dead. Zephyr collapsed. I crawled to him, gathering him into my arms. His eyes flickered, the red fading back into that beautiful amethyst. "Mom," he whispered weakly. I sobbed, clutching him tight. "I have you! I have you!" Isaak sank to his knees beside us, breath ragged, shoulders slumped with exhaustion. "It's over," he said hoarsely. Relief crashed into me so hard my body shook. I laughed through tears and looked up at him. Then I saw the blood soaking through his shirt. My smile immediately faded. "Isaak," I whispered. He swayed. "What did you do?" I asked, scrambling toward him. He pressed a hand to his side and pulled away a bloodied spike. I has to protect you, he murmured. The chamber doors burst open as wolves poured in. Xenox froze when he saw us. Lady Eris! Isaak collapsed to his knees. No, I whispered. No, no. I caught him as he fell, holding him against me. Isaac's hand found my cheek. His eyes searched my face like he was memorizing it. I should have said it sooner, he breathed as his eyes. I love you, Sierra.